In the recent Burnout to Brilliance workshops, I've been talking about this notion of priority. And it comes from this wonderful book by Greg McKeown, Essentialism. And it's there where I first discovered this concept of priority and our relationship to the word and how it's evolved in the English language. So priority came into the English language at around the 1400s as a singular, priority. It was never supposed to be a plural. We don't see it appearing in the English language as a plural until the 1900s, round about the Industrial Revolution, which doesn't surprise me. And so quite often now, when we lose focus, when we feel like we're spread too thin, it's because we've got 20 things that are our priorities and there should only be one. We should be focusing on the priority, what is top of that list, one thing at a time. And when we devote all of our energy and attention to that one thing, we make a better job of it. And yet when we have lots of priorities, we find that we've spread ourselves too thin. We're spreading that same amount of energy and attention and focus over everything. And then you've got to question, well, are we doing any of it that well? And in a world where we're so busy, there's so much noise and distraction, it's easy to feel like we can't focus. But when we've got one priority, rather than treating everything like it's an emergency, what we find is we get more focus, it doesn't take as long, and we can do one thing at a time in a way that doesn't make us feel overwhelmed, but still means we're achieving. I was asked once by a coach, do you control your schedule? Or does your schedule control you? And I think that's a really good example of how we often feel so overwhelmed and so busy because there's so much demand on our time, so many priorities. And of course, when we've just got one priority, it gets all of our attention and focus. We don't get that sense of overwhelm. And what we find is that we find more time. Our productivity increases, our focus and concentration is better. We have more energy because we're not spreading ourselves so thin. We are performing better. So we perform at our peak because we're not trying to do everything and wondering why we can't keep up. We're doing one thing really well and then moving on to the next priority. And it allows us to feel more energized because let's face it, we either are spreading ourselves too thin and we're struggling productivity wise and we get that productivity guilt, or by some miracle we are doing everything that's asked of us and keeping our heads above water at work, but there's nothing left in the tank after that when we get home for life, for family. So if you need to change your relationship with time, set some boundaries, take control of your schedule, improve your focus, battle this busyness and noise so that you can be productive rather than busy, and master some high performance habits, then get in touch and let's talk about the Burnout to Brilliance program.